Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the No Easy Way Out podcast. My name is Tony, and we are coming to you as always from the Armory in beautiful downtown Owasso, home to my company AZ Business Solutions, where we help grow your brand from A to Z. Now I'm joined today by a very, very familiar face in our community. He's an Owasso native, I believe, has played a huge role in the revitalization of our downtown district, very, very active and involved in our community. And he is also the co-owner of everybody's favorite coffee place, Foster Coffee Company, Jon Moore. Jon, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And we had your counterpart, Nick, on the show this season, a few episodes back. And so we wanted to get the rest of the story, all right? We wanted to get the other side of the story. And Jon so generously brought us some Foster coffee this morning, which is delicious. I got some vanilla cream here. And we actually, on National Coffee Day, we did a little video. We went around to all the coffee shops in our area, and we rated them on four things. We rated them on variety, vibe, value, and flavor. And we went to the new espresso place. We went to Starbucks. We went to Big B. We went to you guys, and we went to Guido's. And you guys won. You guys got best coffee cup in Owasso from our perspective. We thought it was really good. All the places had, something good to offer. The good thing to know is if you love coffee, there's some good options in Owasso. But we prefer Foster. We love it, and we love what you guys are doing over there. And so we want to talk about that. But I think the first time we met was down at the Owasso's Farmers Market. You probably don't even remember because you were busy slinging coffee down there. But I just remember thinking, that was right around the same time I was starting my business. I was like, man, what a good idea. These guys are out here like hustling, getting their name out there. And it seemed like you guys had a big line. People were talking about it. So, and I bought a coffee from you. I bought the vanilla farmer's market. Now you have that on your menu. And it's still one of my favorite go-tos there. But I think that's the first time we met. So I wouldn't think you'd remember, but that's what I remember. But why don't you tell our audience a little bit about you and what you got going on in your life right now?
Yeah, I mean, you said a lot of it. Foster Coffee is me and Nick's baby. We do have a third partner, my brother-in-law, Jonathan. He's not in the state, so he's a little bit more behind the scenes, but he's also involved with it. So, I'm born and raised in Owasso, like you said. Yeah. Did a lot of traveling with Nicholas. We were in a band together, and for some people, and I know we can get into this later, for some people, that traveling is kind of a window to show them that they want to leave their hometown. Yeah. For me, it was the opposite. Yeah. It was kind of like more of a mirror to say like, oh, like I actually like the small town life. Yeah. So anyways, decided to grow my roots deep in Owasso. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think everybody that grows up in a small town says, oh, I can't wait to get out of this place. And then they leave and they go out, and many times you get summoned back because you realize there's no place like home. But I think particularly Owasso is a special place. My family and I spent 4 years in New York running hotels, and it was great out there. It was different. It was unique, but we always missed home. And there's just no place like Owasso for us. So we love people that love Owasso. So currently you're the owner at Foster, co-owner there. Tell our audience in your own words, what makes Foster Coffee different, unique, special? What's great about Foster Coffee from your perspective?
Yeah, so I don't know how much Nick touched on this, but I feel like when we were traveling, it was really cool. It was a way for us to be able to go to all these different shops in all these different communities, different states, different climates, different socioeconomic environments, and see different coffee shops. Yeah. And I will say that's when craft coffee was really starting to take off. Yeah. Before that, it was like few and far between. They were really spread out, but it was really starting to grow, and we decided to start Foster. So what I would say it makes it unique is the fact that we kind of took all those elements from places that we went and visited, what we liked, what we didn't like, what we would do in our own way. And we knew that in our community, especially, that the popular drink or the most consumed drink's probably not going to be just like a straight black coffee or espresso. Like in some big cities, you can get away doing that because you have such a large population. There's going to be a big group of people that want just those things. So we knew we were going to have to serve, flavored lattes, larger drinks, different drinks. So our philosophy from the beginning is if we're going to do that well. Mm-hmm. So being a coffee owner, I always get like the comment, like when somebody adds cream or flavor to a coffee. Like, oh, I don't want to ruin it. And I always say the same thing. I'm like, bad coffee with cream or flavoring is bad coffee, and good coffee with cream or flavoring is good coffee. So, so it starts with our coffee. We roast it ourselves. We've been doing that since 2017. It's going really well. We get offerings from all over the world, mainly South America, Central America, and Africa. Mm-hmm. And then all of our syrups we make in-house. So I think combining those two things of our focus on quality makes our drinks unique. But then I would say our hospitality is something we really, really strive to do well and work on. That was something that we didn't like with a lot of craft coffee shops we went to. A kind of a air of arrogance and a kind of I don't know, just kind of a distant type
elitist
feeling. Yeah. Not all of them. And sometimes it just came down to the person working. So we knew that it was going to be part of our business plan. We're going to train our employees. That's the first day of their training is we go through a hospitality packet and we work on some things with them.
Well, that's awesome. And obviously I have a background in hospitality, so I love hearing that. And one of the things I think probably the hardest thing for me with this whole COVID thing is I feel like in a world where customer service and hospitality was already lacking, now it's like almost completely non-existent. It's like businesses now are doing almost a bare minimum amount to just stay open and give you something, and it's like 100% transactional, and it's not that customer service. And I think it's a lot of it because people are apprehensive. People don't, we're not used to, in a lot of cases, people aren't used to seeing each other every day, and so knowing that you have a strong focus on that can make a huge difference. That can make everything taste better. Like good service and hospitality can make the coffee actually taste better and the food taste better and all those things. That's one of the things we used to tell our staff, in the hotel world. And so I think that's extremely, extremely important. And I know for me, when I travel, if I'm out of town on business, when I want coffee, I look for the locally owned coffee shop. Like I try to avoid, the Starbucks and the whatever the chains are, because you can get that anytime, anywhere. But I really like to find the unique coffee shop. If you go in our office, I have like 50 different coffee bags. If ever anyone's selling whole bean coffee, I buy it because I like to try it. I'm an artist, so I love the graphics, a really cool design bag. And so that's one of the things I collect. And we have so many bags that aren't even open yet because we have so much coffee. But I love the culture and environment of a small town local coffee shop. It always seems to have a cool vibe. And I have noticed what you're saying. I mean, there are some that hit and some that miss, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So you guys then started, you had this idea, you're on the road together, visiting all these coffee shops. From what Nick said, you were more of the coffee lover than he was, but you had this idea to start a coffee shop in our hometown. But you decided, instead of starting with a brick and mortar, you started at the farmer's market. We actually have in our community, I think one of the largest outdoor farmers markets in the state. And so tell us what year you decided to start in the farmer's market and why you decided to go that route.
Yeah, so we started in 2015 in the farmer's market, and we learned starting this business with no history we're technically by a lot of entities viewed as a restaurant business. So we didn't have any history in that business. We're both, we're pretty young when we were starting it. So we didn't have a lot of equity or just like cash on hand to go off of. So we couldn't really get a loan.
Banks love that. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were hoping to open a coffee shop first, to be honest. But the more that we talked about it and kind of looked into things, we thought, why not start the farmer's market? It's almost like an incubator in a way, almost like a test market. The cost of entry is so low. So this is my little advertisement for farmer's markets, not just Owasso's, which is fantastic, but farmer's markets across the country or state is, if you are thinking about starting a business, I don't care what it is, I think it's worth a booth fee. It is normally so low. So the cost of entry to get in was great. Captured audience. We have, I think, over 1,500 people every Saturday on average come to our farmers market. Anywho, we saw that opportunity and we thought, hey, let's do like a stripped down version of what we can offer. So we started with pour overs, which maybe I should have brought one today, but pour overs is pretty much where you take a kettle and you pour water over the coffee and it drips down into a vessel. So the barista has a lot of control over it, which provides just a really high quality cup of coffee. So it was unique to Owasso. We didn't have anyone offering those at the moment. And it provided entertainment or some sort of visual, show
experience.
Yeah, exactly. So when someone walked up and they saw us making all these, it was really cool. Again, we learned that, not everyone wants just a black coffee, just a regular pour over. So we came up with the drink like you mentioned. The Farmer's Market Vanilla, which is a house-made vanilla syrup with half and half and coffee. Real simple drink, but really delicious. And yeah, we've called it the Farmer's Market ever since because that's where we started it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I noticed right off the bat, because we're a marketing company, you guys came in right off the bat with really good marketing.
Yeah.
I started seeing stuff pop up on social media before I ever saw you at the Farmer's Market, which made me want to go down there. So good marketing, I think, is always a big part of it. And I know
kudos to Nick.
Yeah, I know that's a lot where Nick came in and it looked really good. But I think, going back to your comment about people not wanting just a black cup of coffee. And I think that's really, in my opinion, you might know more about this as a coffee expert, but I think that's the Starbucks effect, because how many people do you know that hate coffee but love Starbucks? Because if you're just a coffee lover, you don't really like Starbucks coffee, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And so, but Starbucks has all these like flavored, and their marketing made it really cool, or it's almost like a status symbol to walk around with a Starbucks coffee. They, put themselves in movies and all of those things. And so now you see 17, 18-year-old kids who can't stand the bitterness of a real cup of coffee. They'll go in and they'll order a Frappuccino that's like 90% chocolate and whipped cream and a little bit of coffee in it. And so now you have a lot more people that say they are coffee lovers and they love coffee, but they don't necessarily like the black cup of coffee. And there are actually only a few types of coffee that I will just drink straight black. Foster is one of those. I don't know if you ever heard of Death Wish coffee. I love Death Wish coffee. It's such a dark roast bean and it's bitter, but I love the taste of it. But yeah, I think people that really, really, really love just a good cup of coffee. I think that's probably rarer than the mass market that just likes the experience of going to a coffee shop, having something that's sweet that they like, and then it becomes a little more palatable for them. So, okay,
well, if I can interject though,
yeah, please.
Something I love about, and I've been thinking about this a lot. I just like to reflect a lot. Sometimes just about what I'm doing. Yeah. And something I love about coffee, and you mentioned this earlier, is the culture around it. So even if it is a really sugary drink, and even if it's coming from Foster where they order extra flavor and all that stuff, I just love the fact that the culture has been created that it's a place to gather. It's a place to come together. It's a place to meet someone, go on first dates, business meetings, etc. So I don't know, there's a part of me that has a little bit of coffee snobbery that I would want people to drink straight espresso and black coffee. But there's another part of me that really loves the tea drinker or the person that hates the taste of coffee, so they try to cover it up. But even though they want that drink, I don't know. There's something about it that really intrigues me. Yeah,
it's the community, and your guys' tagline or your motto, your philosophy, your mission statement is fostering community through coffee. Yeah, and really, I mean, every time I go into Foster, I see people that I know. I have conversation. When I'm waiting for my coffee, there's always 2 or 3 people that are people in my community that I know, and we go visit. Whenever I want to have a meeting with somebody that I'm not going to do at my office, I go to Foster, and that becomes the place where people gather. And so, yeah, that's really cool, and that makes it all part of the experience. Yeah. So, okay, so then you started the Farmers Market 2015. When did you actually open the doors to your location here on Washington Street in Owasso?
So December of the same year.
Okay, so it went quick.
Yeah, so during the summer or spring and summer months, we were doing the farmers market all the way into the fall. But then throughout the summer, we were also working on, again, still trying to open a coffee shop. That's where Jonathan comes in. We had all sorts of different plans. He came to us and said, hey, if we can somehow make this work, I want to be involved. So we got together just enough pretty much to open our first location. I would argue it's not enough, but we somehow made it work. But yeah, and we opened in December of 2015. I'm not sure if Nick shared this story, but our grand opening night, our espresso machine didn't work, our brand new espresso machine. So a pump failed on us. I have some theories as to why, but yeah, no, it was crazy. So we made the best of it.
Yeah. Well, that's incredible. I mean, you guys went and proved the concept. You proved that, hey, there is a market in our community for this, people like this, got some people on board, and you just went with it. And I think from my perspective, it's gone extremely well ever since. I know the pandemic hit anybody in the food service industry really, really hard, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But, I am a big fan of what you guys are doing. Love it. Love to see what you guys are doing there. So first location in 2015. And then, right off the bat, things started growing, and it seemed like, from me as an outsider view, it's like you guys started expanding right away. So the first place you went for your second location was downtown Flint. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So when we first came up with the concept of Foster, originally we thought of just a single cafe with a roastery. And then the more that we looked in like the numbers and like what was possible and what we wanted to do with it, we quickly learned and kind of discovered that we wanted to be a multi-location coffee shop. So so we were kind of had our ears to the ground and kind of looking around, and we were approached by some individuals in Flint who, through some mutual friends, about an opportunity happening there. Beautiful building called the Ferris Wheel.
Yeah.
It's a building that had been sitting vacant for better part of 3 decades, if my understanding is correct. So they were revitalizing that building, and they wanted us to be a part of it. And I get tattooed downtown Flint. Nick and I, our first, I would say, official concert as a band was downtown Flint. I don't know. I've always just had an affinity for Flint and Lansing. But it just made sense, and we opened that in 2017. At the same time, we started to roast. So we I wouldn't advise doing that again
at the same time.
At the same time, but in 2017 we also started roasting our own coffee. That was really cool. We got the roaster into our basement somehow, and that somehow was a bunch of like straps tied to it and a bunch of people lowering it down the stairs gently. Started roasting in 2017.
Well, and you guys do that right here in Owasso.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when I'm away from town, I always look for that hometown craft coffee shop. But if I can find a place that roasts their own beans, I'll pick that every time, because I love the smell when you walk in of the coffee beans roasting. There's this place I go in upstate New York called Uncommon Grounds, and they have their roaster like right in the middle of the dining room. And so there's times a day where they're there, like, and it's kind of chaotic, but people kind of sit around, you can smell it and you see it, but it's just a cool experience,
Yeah.
And I don't know how that they manage that all the time, because it gets to be quite a process. But
there's a few shops that do that. I always think that's cool.
It's really cool. Yeah, really cool. And I love the smell of it.
Oh yeah.
So then, how long after that did you guys move to East Lansing? You're a big Michigan fan, and so you moved right into the campus of Michigan State. That must have been a good business move, but also like, it's my team.
So for me personally, like East Lansing's always been a fun spot. Like I'd go there on dates. Like we'd go there with friends, get food, hang out. So it's, again, I think as most Michigan State fans can say, it's like, it's a fun rivalry.
For sure.
So it was a great opportunity. Obviously the campus being there with that many students, it really fit what we wanted to do. What's really cool about, if you step back and look at all 3 of our locations, they're all so different.
Yeah.
The communities, the demographic, they're all really unique. So I've really enjoyed seeing how we approach it differently. We didn't just take our Owasso model and just copy it.
Right.
We took our Owasso model, took like the base of it and then copied that, but we definitely have our unique kind of flavor and unique style at each location and how we do things. Really cool.
Yeah, no, I've been to all 3 locations. They are all a little bit different. I mean, same good coffee, same good service, attention to detail, but each one is different. That Lansing location is cool. It's got the 2 stories.
The mezzanine's cool.
Yeah, there's another place. I think I might have told you or Nick this. There's a place I go to, where one of my clients are, also in New York, that's called Crew Coffee, CRU, and they have that second floor like that. So it's always a great place to go work. And so, it's really cool. So you guys have done a great job, I think, and I know that you guys have future plans. So what do you want the communities that you serve to know about, Foster, and not just today, but what you guys are looking to do in the future?
Yeah. I mean, the fostering community through coffee, it's not just a passive community building. What I mean by that is, I would argue if you opened a bad coffee shop in any community, you would, when I say community, I mean like a town, a physical community. If you opened your doors, you'd probably create community on accident.
Right.
Like people would just come in, they'd get their coffee, they would meet with one another. So we decided early on with our vision statement of fostering community through coffee is that we were going to foster it. We were going to be an active and proactive member of fostering community.
Yeah.
What that means is being intentional with not just like events, which to me, again, is just one way to foster community, but where we spend our money. On our side of our cups here, there's a really small print talking about that we spend over 75% of our expenses are local. As a matter of fact, Nick and I just went over some numbers and updated those, and 80% are spent in the state of Michigan. So we were very intentional about where we buy our products, where we get them from. Our dairy out of Nashville, Michigan, our disposables out of HK Allen, a company here in Owasso, Michigan. So we're funneling, tens of thousands of dollars and even more in certain areas into our communities. I'm throwing out rough numbers, but I've read that if you spend $1 locally, approximately 67 cents stays in that community.
Yeah, I've heard the same statistic.
And if I spend that same dollar, let's say a few states away, maybe a penny comes back. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, it's really powerful because you can see it affecting your neighbors, see it affecting your friends and your communities.
Right. I mean, I think it's extremely, extremely important for people to understand. You always hear that shop small, shop local. And a lot of times the messaging of that sounds good, but people don't understand why it's important. And just reflecting on what you said, I mean, when you do support that local business, you're not just supporting the business itself, but you're supporting the family, but you're also supporting baseball teams that are getting sponsored and little kids, dance recitals and all the different community events. And that money is getting spread around into that same community. It makes for a better community. And people always say, we want a better community. And that's one of the best ways that individual citizens can help make sure their community is everything they want it to be, is as much as possible that you can spend your money here locally with the small business. And even if it's a little bit more expensive, you're getting that personal touch. You're getting that care, that love for the community. And you're just not getting that with the big box. And I'm not anti-big box. I mean, they serve a purpose and they exist and I use them. But I think anytime I have the opportunity to shop small and shop local, I do it. I think it's important for people to do that as well. Well, let's talk a little bit then about your journey, like how you got to this point, how you got here. You were born and raised in Owasso, right? Your dad was a pastor. I know that.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about, growing up in Owasso and what that was like, growing up as a pastor's kid and kind of that, what are the things that kind of formed you into the man you are today?
Man, I don't know how in detail to go, but I grew up in Owasso. Again, when you're a kid, I don't think you really know what community you're growing up in. It's just your childhood, home. Right? Yep. I remember riding my bike around a lot. Sometimes getting in trouble for riding my bike around too much.
Same.
I grew up in Westtown, Owasso, so I remember going to Westtown Dairy and scrounging up some quarters and change and buying pop and. Going to the movie store next to our house. Right,
neighborhood video.
Yeah, neighborhood video. Yeah, and again,
now Mowinski Financial, but exactly. I remember neighborhood video.
And then I was in House of Wheels yesterday buying tires for my son's bike, and I bought a hat too. And I just was talking with one of the guys, reminiscing that I grew up across a parking lot, so right across the parking lot from House of Wheels. So again, I would scrounge up change, go over there and buy new what are those called?
Chromies?
Yeah,
for the
valve stones.
Yep.
I had bullet shaped ones. I thought they were the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my childhood, is just running around Owasso, being a fun little kid. Went to a private school most of my life, a small private school my parents ran. So my experience was, again, very small school. And then I ended up...
Same here too.
Yeah. Ended up moving out into the country. And we were right on the line between Owasso and Corona. I ended up going to Corona High School, which I loved, to be honest. But still was very involved in Owasso. So... my dad being a pastor, I just had a really interesting upbringing of meeting people from all over the world, all over the country, all over the state, because they were always coming and visiting. Travel with my dad to a couple spots, not out of country, but just traveling around with him. So I got to meet a lot of people. So I think, even though he was a pastor, that it kind of started to breed these feelings of entrepreneurship in me. And I didn't really realize that until I started Foster. I was like, oh, shoot, I've kind of been used to this, right. Like the idea of my dad and mom being in charge of things and operating things and being the one that had to go fix a leaky sink at the church or whatever it might be. So
it's like God prepared me for this.
Right. Yeah. So, now, if I can kind of shift back to Owasso, I remember when I was younger, there wasn't a lot that attracted me to downtown.
Right.
So as I got older, it was something that I definitely felt in some friend groups, and Dan, who's here with us, like I think it really started to bubble up a little bit for me right around high school and after. The music scene started to really grow, the art scene started to really grow. So I think there was more involvement with that group of individuals in that age group, kind of that high school through college age, of people wanting to create something here. So that's when I think my love for Owasso really deepened. And I would say mixed with what I mentioned earlier of the traveling and kind of realizing I really like the pace of Owasso.
Yeah, it's a great place to grow up, and some of those memories you were bringing up, I mean, I have the same memories riding my bike around. I don't know if you were a sports card collector. I was telling my kids the other days, I mean, I collected baseball cards, basketball cards, and when I was growing up, it was like the golden era. There was like baseball card shops downtown and place we'd ride our bike to and go to the baseball field and do all those things. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And your dad, I have to say, is one of my favorite people. I mean,
He's
every
awesome.
time I see your dad, and I don't even know him that well, but he's just always so encouraging. He'll ask you, what can I pray for you? He'll tell you about a trip that he's getting ready to go on, ask for your prayers. He'll send a text every now and then just to let us know what's going on. He's just one of my favorite people. I really, really, really like your dad. So it's a good dude there. So then, okay, so you grew up in the community. When you got out of high school, is that when you started traveling for music? Did you go to college anywhere? What was that journey after high school like?
Yeah, so I think like a lot of kids, which I do have some criticisms of kind of like just in general how we approach things with students in high school. But anyways, the typical path being kind of preached to me that I should go to school, find something I want to do and do it, right?
Yeah.
So loved music, started the band in high school. So that was always kind of a thing. Went to LCC for massage therapy, actually. But again, for us as adults know, like we change our interests and what we want to do probably multiple times.
For sure.
So for anyone to really decide and stick to something at 17 or 18 years old, to me, just seems a little crazy.
100%.
So yeah, the massage therapy thing lasted a year. The band was getting busier and busier. So we started traveling a lot more, and Nicholas actually was a big proponent of that. He took a class of how to turn your band into a business. So writing off like gas receipts and keeping a cash flow, sheet and expenses and income and all that good stuff. And so we came up with a plan to do it like more sustainably and try to really make it a career. So we all worked part-time jobs while we were pursuing that. But yeah, not much college, just LCC for a year.
Yeah. Well, I think what you said is extremely important. It's one of the things I've said on this podcast before, but I talked to my kids about my son as a senior in high school. And, I've planned 3 weekends this year with just he and I going out of town and talking about his future and vision and, understanding not just what you want to do, but what has God planned for your life. Obviously, as a Christian, that's a big part of making that choice. We've already done 2 of them, and we just did one this last weekend, and we just had some great conversation about, what he wants to do. I encouraged him, go do college for a year. You don't even have to really 100% know what your major is, but just get the experience of being away from home, kind of figuring things out on your own, and then be open to what God has for your life. And I think that to expect any 16, 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid to know what they want to do for the rest of their lives. And this is why I think you see a huge majority of kids, they graduate college and then they never get a job in their degree and they end up with all this debt, because I think there's this societal pressure that every kid has to graduate and go to college. And I'm not against college. And there are certainly specific industries that if you're going to do those, you need college. But I don't think college is for every kid. And so I think that each person, individual young person, needs to really consider what their future looks like. And before they spend thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe have a good, clear path of what that looks like. And it's okay to get out and get a job and save up some money and try some things. I always tell people too, like when you're like 18 to 25, I mean, that's like the easiest time in your life to fail. Try things, like try something different, try something new and fail at some things, because you're not affecting a family or kids or, you don't have a mortgage. So there's so much margin for error at that age. And so I'm not saying be irresponsible, but try things that you're passionate about. And I always tell people, if you can do what you love and make money, you've won. You've won. If you can do what you love to do and make money at it, then you've won. It doesn't really matter how much money that is either, when you can enjoy what you do. So, okay, so you graduated high school, did a little college, decided to travel with the band. did you have any other, you said you worked some part-time jobs. What kind of jobs did you work? What, Jon Moore, before he was the coffee guy from Owasso, like what kind of jobs did you do that kind of shaped who you are and maybe helped you determine what you didn't want to do or what you did want to do?
My very first job was painting for a summer. I want to say I was 15. Painted with a local painting company. That was really great. Learned a lot of lessons there. And then every summer from there throughout high school, I worked as a car porter, like someone who drove cars for this, to and from the service bays.
I did that too.
Yeah. That was cool. That was fun. Once I got my
fun.
license, I got to do that. Did that in Lansing, or Grand Ledge technically, and ended up doing it in Owasso too. Pet Supplies Plus, worked there for a minute. Worked at Young's as a car wash guy.
Same.
Yep. And then when the band really started traveling, that's when these other jobs started to be like, no, Jon, you can't leave for 2.5, 3 weeks and come back.
Right.
You have to quit or stay here.
Yeah.
So that's when I realized coffee shops are a really great job to have. So I started working at Big B actually. And they, again, very flexible. After that, started working at Guido's here in Owasso.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. And that's where my craft coffee love really started to take off. I met a couple people in my lives. The Madison's a local photography group. So Joe
Great
Madison,
people.
really great influence on my coffee journey. He introduced me to another individual out of Ypsilanti named Miro. He was roasting coffee, and he really helped me see like, oh, there's this whole other step of quality beyond Starbucks, beyond Big B, beyond these chains. And that's when I just started taking off with that love. So then I was working at Guido's. I got married, and my wife got pregnant. So I'm trying to pursue this band career, working at a coffee shop, and realize that I can't support a family on what I'm doing right now. So that's when I made the tough decisions to leave the band, which we ended up disbanding, and the tough decision to leave coffee for a moment. Mm-hmm. I went and worked for Al Shattuck State Farm, local State Farm agent here in Owasso.
My current agent?
Yeah, there you go. And I really value my time there. Al's a Marine, and he taught me a lot of really great lessons. He would question and challenge me on some things. We're pretty close in age, and so I really learned a lot and really appreciate him. He's a really big influence and reason that Foster was able to start the way it did. Mm-hmm. He's a very big piece of that puzzle. So for the first time, I had a little bit of disposable income. I got to buy some coffee from all over the states, buy coffee equipment, and keep messing around with it. So the passion never left.
Yeah.
The passion just kept growing. Then one day, Nicholas was going to business school, and he kept saying to me, whenever you want to start that coffee shop, let me know. One day I was staring at my computer at the office and texted him and said, hey man, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. So we sat down at my dining room table and mapped out a plan.
That's awesome. I mean, everybody's journey is so different and so unique, and all of those little things along the way that kind of chip away and get you to the point where you realize, all right, this is what I need to do. And then, you have to work those jobs along the way that help shape you and mold you. And sometimes even jobs that you don't enjoy, but are helping teaching you different types of work ethic or how to deal with different types of people. It's all part of the journey. And I think, one of the things that affects young people so much today is they look on social media and they see all of their friends doing, of course, we've talked about this a lot. The social media is the highlight reel. Everybody posts their best day, their best relationship, their best new car, whatever. They always post the good stuff. So people go on social media and they see everyone around them appearing to have success and appearing to have all these good things, and they feel like they're behind, or, and I always say, you're not behind. You're just early. You're early in the journey. And so be committed to what you are about, and what you don't try to do somebody else's journey. Make your own journey. Mm-hmm. Learn things along the way, and then, you'll find it. And so I love hearing, how that, and it's funny because you and Nick's journey are completely different, really. I mean, there's some similarities, but kind of how you guys came together is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So on this journey of entrepreneurship, and it's an ongoing journey, right? It's not like it's over. Like, it's still, you're in it every day. Mm-hmm. What are some things you've picked up along the way that you think would be helpful to other professionals as they're kind of on their journey trying to figure it out?
There's a lot of things I've learned. Most recently, I guess just because it's the most forefront of my mind, is boundary setting. I think there's this and this might go against what a lot of people think. There's this entrepreneurial mindset of grinding and just like constantly, hustle. There's value to that. And sure, I mean, I'm currently working a lot more hours than I really want to, but understanding that you really have to step back and prioritize your values, prioritize what you value in life. For me, it's family. So I've had to learn to boundary set that Foster is a very important part of my life, but it's not the most important thing. It's not everything. So I would say for any entrepreneur, chase what you love, chase your passion, but just remember what your values are, why you're doing it. Why are you chasing this thing?
Right. And I think it also comes back to understanding your journey and understanding why you're doing what you're doing, and understanding it doesn't have to be somebody else, and not judging yourself too early, but understanding the things that are important to you. And then I think the key part is understanding what season of life you're in. Because when you're in your young 20s and you don't have kids or family, what's important to you is completely different than when you maybe hit your 30s and now you have a few kids and you have a wife and you have a family. The things that are important to you start to shift a little bit. You can't work like you did when you were 20. Not only physically, like your body starts to slow down, the all-nighter affects you way more than it used to, but also like you have this group of people now, these kids and this family that need you. And so, you have to know in this journey, like what season of life I'm in and what can I truly give to something and not burn myself out, or turn this thing that I was once passionate about and now turn it into just this nightmare thing that I have to manage. Right. And so, that's, like I said, I think that's something that only individuals can understand, but you have to be honest with yourself.
Yes.
And I always say this, happiness is underrated. Like, think about what makes you happy. I'm most happy when I'm doing what? And then find the way to make yourself do that thing as much as possible.
Yeah.
Those things that you're passionate about.
Yeah.
So they say that 80%, and I don't know who they are, but they say that 80% of entrepreneurs fail. Why do you think that is? And failure is subjective.
Yeah, I was going to say there's going to be a lot of reasons, right? Like, I don't know. Like I think we could seriously sit here and list 100 reasons why an entrepreneur would fail. So I don't know if we could summarize it, but I would just say like, I would applaud them for trying it, you know? One thing I will say that I've learned from a lot of people that want to start a business is they don't do enough research first. That's huge. Like sit down, do research, look, meet with people that know more than you, learn before just jumping, I would say that's probably a big reason why. And then from there, the boring part of running a business that I think every small business especially runs into is, delegation, time management processes.
The spreadsheets.
Yeah. Because if it's just like I think you kind of alluded to it, if it's just a job that you now have created for yourself, like, that's what it's going to be, so I think I could see why people would maybe burn out or not run it efficiently and eventually it fails, whatever. But, I don't know. Again, there's probably a million reasons why a business fails, but I would say it probably boils down to something along those lines.
Those are great answers. Those are very, very good answers. And I always tell people failure isn't really failure unless it's final, meaning if you just quit.
Right.
And quitting doesn't necessarily mean you stop doing that and decided to shift or adjust, or quitting is when you just say, I can't do it anymore. Yeah. And sometimes that's necessary. And so I think you have to first start by determining in your mind, what does success look like to me? Because there are lots of definitions of success. If success to you is making millions of dollars, then you might be disappointed a lot because it takes a lot of work and effort and energy to get to millions of dollars. It just does. Even for the most successful entrepreneurs, the most successful people are probably making less money than you realize. And so if your definition of success is money, then you need to quantify what that looks like. That way you know if you're on the path for it. But if your success is something different, if it's time, if it's family, if it's freedom, whatever those things are, then you can understand, okay, I'm not failing. Maybe I'm not making as much money as the entrepreneur next door, but I have freedom. I have time. And so understanding what success looks like is so vitally important.
Agreed.
And 100% you have to come up with a plan. Sometimes people make entrepreneurship look easily. So like, well, if that guy can do it, I can do it.
Right.
And there's a lot more to it than probably what you see. So having a plan. I think another thing is, so many businesses come in underfunded and getting some funding up front is a huge help because it is hard. There are so many things involved with running a business that you just don't know until you're doing it. It's like, holy cow, I never thought about this. But I think, if you're listening out there and you're in the journey thinking about starting something, I think step one is define what success looks like to you. And I think that will help you be able to know where you're at on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I appreciate you sharing that stuff with me. We're going to move to a segment that our fans like called Explain That Post.
Okay.
So I'm going to send you a photo here.
All right. Let's see.
I'm going to send it right to your phone. And I had a couple, but I asked Dan over here, since he knows you the best, which was the best one of these to send. So this is the one we came up with. So I did a deep dive on your social media, and you didn't have a lot of incriminating photos on there. I was a little disappointed.
Yeah,
but
no.
this one isn't necessarily incriminating, but I think it needs a little more context so our audience can see this. What is going on in this picture here?
Do you have a date attached to that by any chance?
I don't on my phone.
That's okay.
It was way back in the archives.
Yeah, I know exactly what I was doing there, but I don't know exactly when. So we were out on a tour, traveling, playing music, and I love the state of Michigan. I just love our state. I love home. So we crossed the border and stopped. I don't know if it was a gas station or if it was a rest stop. And first thing I did was jumped out of the van, ran over to the grass, and kissed the ground.
Just smelled the grass. Yeah.
And
I think the caption was "Michigan, my Michigan," so that makes sense.
Sweet.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember that. I remember that clearly. I just don't remember exactly when that was. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were praying, if you were worshiping a little bit there. You just love Michigan.
Kissing the ground.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I always try to, we've been, the last year and a half especially, we always end our episode where we kind of talk a little bit about the pandemic. It's still going on in a lot of ways. It's affected everybody in some way or another. And so I just want to kind of talk about how that affected Foster and what are some of the things you guys did. So initially, was Foster Coffee, I know it's a food service, but I don't know, it's not technically a restaurant. Was it deemed essential? Like, were you guys allowed to stay open?
Yes.
You were?
Yeah,
Okay.
we made sure of that because, again, like you said, a lot of entities in the government or whatever, they have to put you in a category, right?
Yeah.
So they put Foster in the restaurant category. So when everything was happening, as everyone knows, it was just crazy. Like, we didn't know what to do, who to listen to, what was going on. So we just ended up going off of the law, what we needed to do, what we were asked to do and required to do, and following that to a T, and then some in a lot of cases. So yeah, when we were deemed essential, we decided to make some decisions around that.
So what were the restrictions? You were allowed to be open, but just not for dine-in. What were some of the restrictions?
It switched
every day.
So I think I could have my timeline off, but from what I recall, it was to go only. So you couldn't sit down at all. And then so we started offering curbside and delivery as well as like mobile ordering. So that's I know you're probably going to ask that, like, what did we do? But yeah. And then I think they allowed dine-in at certain capacities. We had to have certain shields up. We had to wear masks. So it was all sorts of requirements. Yeah.
Well, and so now you have this business that is growing, that's got momentum. You've poured a lot of capital into the expansion with the roastery, all the different things. And it seems like things are headed in the right direction. And then this happens. Nobody could have predicted it. Nobody could have expected it. And the whole philosophy of your business is, fostering community, a place to gather. And now you can't do one of the most important things that you guys have defined is this is what we're about.
Right.
And so that's crazy. How did your customers react? I know there was a lot of different reactions to that. What was the overall reaction you got from your customers, especially your regulars?
Overwhelming support.
Yeah.
That was the reaction. And Owasso especially.
Yeah.
It was amazing when that people roll with the punches. Sure, there were some complaints and some, griping and some, whatever.
Conspiracy theories.
Yeah, all that good stuff. But for the vast majority was support and love, and it was really, really what we needed, I think.
Yeah, and it was amazing to me to see how our community just came together, and everybody was trying to figure out ways we could support our small businesses. People were doing a lot of different things online, and it was just really, really cool to see everyone come together.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interject, but
right.
if I may, you mentioned something about like the community thing, and it triggered a thought because I had reflected on this for months and now better part of a year. Yeah, like when your model is to bring people together to create community, it challenged the idea that it has to be in a physical space.
Right.
So it was really great for Nicholas and I to step back and be like, how do we execute our vision statement in an environment like this where we're told do not gather together? And it was really cool for us to really focus on, oh, wow, where we're spending our money, was very important. And we had made a lot of those decisions before this, but it was even more of a encouragement to realize like that's part of our fostering community. Also emphasis on each interaction. So even if it's just a 30-second conversation while you're getting coffee, like just emphasizing that is creating community, that is fostering community. So I feel like that even though we weren't able to have events or get people in the same room together as much, we really like found ways to do that, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah. And listen, I mean, most entrepreneurs are smart, and when we're pushed against the wall and we have to be creative to figure out ways, we're going to do it. And it was neat to see all the creative things that people around us were doing to like, oh, that was a good idea, to stay connected with their people and just continue to do and the things that they love. And in many cases, I mean, there was no option to close. Like I know for us was like, we can't close. It was very unclear about what we were supposed to do because we're not really customer service, but they closed this building that we're in. And everybody was going to work from home, and we tried that, but it was very unclear. But then we got together, like, all right, how can we continue to stay connected with our customers? And in most cases, like a lot of our customers who we market for didn't want to be marketed because they couldn't have a bunch of people showing up at their door. And so trying to find ways to help our customers, our clients with their messaging and what they were trying to offer. And it was both challenging and exciting at the same time to try to just see what everybody was doing. So what were some of the creative things that you guys did? I know you said you offered curbside, but what are some of the unique things you guys did to kind of stay connected?
Yeah, so that was the big thing is we switched to offering online ordering, which we still offer now. It's a huge part of our business. Offering curbside service and counter pickup. And then we do delivery. It's through a third party, but we do delivery as well, not as often. So all that to say, that was a huge adjustment and a really, really big adjustment and important. The other thing that we did that I was really excited about is we did half gallons of our beverages. So a lot of individuals were hesitant about coming in even to pick up coffee, which I fully understood. So we were like, well, if somebody came in once and it was curbside and they could pick up half gallons and then have it for a week, at their house, that would be one trip versus 6 or whatever. Because a lot of our regulars, that was part of their daily routine. Right. Is I'm going to go get my coffee, go to work, etc. So that was really cool and something we still offer, still do. And it's been a great addition.
People love it.
Yeah.
People love it. So now that the restrictions are kind of starting to be lifted, I mean, there's still some small restrictions, but most of it's based on your own level of comfort, and they're leaving it now, it seems like, for the most part, up to businesses to have protocols in place and to do the things that'll make people feel safe. But are you seeing now people coming back, people gathering, and are you starting to see kind of things getting back to normal, whatever normal means, right? But maybe pre-pandemic, are you seeing people start to come back and gather and hang out and visit?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
That's good.
Yeah. In each one of our locations, we kind of handle things differently. So we leave it up to our staff and we have conversations with one another about wearing masks, things like that. So like, for example, right now, MSU is asking students to wear masks in buildings. So we've just followed that lead. Yeah. But yeah, for the most part, I would say everything feels a little bit more normal. Yeah. But we still have extra precautions set in place, which is really great. Like changing out our air filters more frequently, have air purifiers at a couple locations, more frequent sanitizing, et cetera. Yeah.
Well, whatever your personal beliefs are about the pandemic, the way it's been handled or whatever, when you're a business owner, it's not just about what you think. You're serving a variety of customers. And so to just say, well, I'm going to not even consider how my actions might affect my customers one way or the other, is just irresponsible. And so, I think when it comes to, you can have your own personal standards for your own life, but when it comes to your business, you have to really think through, like, what can I do to make sure that my customer feels like, I'm taking this seriously, and then balancing that with not, I'm taking it too seriously. It's a balance, but I think it's important. So what is some good advice that you would give to other entrepreneurs that are still in the middle of this, still trying to manage this, some of the things you've learned, what would some advice you'd say that they should, consider when trying to manage this uncertain pandemic?
Oh, man.
Navigate it.
Advice. Sometimes I feel like I'm not qualified to give advice, but maybe I can share experience or things I've learned.
Sure.
I would say just that kind of spirit that maybe started or sparked an idea is don't be afraid to go back and reignite that. And like you kind of mentioned earlier, like shift or change, that's okay. Like if you've always done it a certain way and it's comfortable, sometimes discomfort's really positive. So get a little uncomfortable and shift and change for the better. Again, try to ignite that entrepreneurial spirit and create new things, new offerings, new opportunities. Just don't let that die, because I feel like once you get into just like a repetition of this is how I've always done it, that can be kind of just quickly fade,
Sure. And a lot of times that friction or that struggle is the thing that can produce growth in you and in your business. So, embrace it. Some things are out of our control. And so you just have to embrace it. All right, Jon. Well, I thank you so much for sharing all that stuff with us and getting to know you a little more. I learned a lot of things today that I didn't know about you. And, I really admire you and Nick and what you guys have done. There's been many times where I've looked at you guys and have been very inspired by your journey and what you're doing. And I think you continue to inspire people in our community. But we're going to finish the show by squeezing the last little bit of knowledge out of that brain of yours. And we have this segment called Say It in 60, where I'm going to give you 10 rapid fire questions.
Awesome.
In 60 seconds, you got to answer them. There's no wrong answer because they're your answers.
Yep.
But we got to have quick answers. And if you get them all correct, you'll go home today with this fancy insulated AZ coffee mug that you can drink. It'll keep your coffee hot for like 4 hours. So, I don't know if you're a sipper, but or it'll keep your drink cold for a while, but it's a nice cup. That was produced by Heather Brooks at Brooks Innovative Graphics. So,
thank you.
All right. So, Dan, do you have a timer ready for us?
Awesome.
Jon, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. The timer starts now. What is a must-read book?
Brave New World, Aldous Huxley.
What is a daily habit that everyone should do?
Tell your loved ones you love them.
What is your favorite podcast?
This Past Weekend with Theo Vaughn.
What is your must-binge TV series?
The Office.
Good one. What is your why?
My family.
What is your best piece of advice?
Oh gosh, best piece of advice. I don't know. Man, let's come back to that one.
What is your favorite quote?
Love your neighbor.
Who do you look up to?
My mom and dad.
What is success to you?
Finding what makes you happy and gives you the ability to love others.
All right, last question. What is your best piece of advice? How much time?
Oh, man.
10 seconds. Best piece of advice?
Don't give up. Keep going. Keep moving forward.
Very, very good. And I think with a few seconds to spare, you did it, Jon. You're going home today with an insulated AZ coffee mug. Hope you can enjoy some beautiful coffee or some delicious coffee, Foster coffee out of that cup. That's tough to say. All right. Well, again, man, thanks for being on the show today. I know you're busy. I appreciate you taking the time. It's something we've been trying to do for a little while, and we appreciate you taking the time. And I know this will be an encouragement to a lot of people in our community. But before we go, I'd like you to look in that camera and tell everyone how they can find Foster and take advantage of the things that you guys have to offer there.
Yeah, come visit us at any of our locations. Visit our website. You can order coffee online. You can visit us. We have our fall menu out right now, which is really popular, really good. Come see us.
You got pumpkin spice?
We have pumpkin latte. We use real pumpkin puree.
That's important for fall, right? So, well, again, check them out. They're on all the social media as well. So, again, Jon, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And if you're listening still, thank you for watching. As my mother always said, you can't and never could until you tried. So go out there and try something great, my friends, and don't take the easy way out. We'll see you next time.